Okay, we're at the end. The last few parts, from 12 to 16, are about creating and improving our flyer game from the last lesson. So on this one, I've already finished, and I'm just going to show you what I've done. Okay, the first thing they want you to do is to create a new sprite that's going to be an obstacle. I created a cloud. So if you look at the beginning of my code, they're going to have you create a brand new variable. So I made a variable called obstacle, and I set it to be at a random position between 100 and 300x and 100 and 300y. The idea is that no matter when I start the game, it'll be at a random spot. Okay. The other thing you need to do is to um, set colliders for all of these. Well, for most of these things, a circle, and generally speaking, a circle makes much more sense than a rectangle. So on these ones, I set colliders all to be circles, and I did a debug to make sure it looked right. I changed the shape of my cloud because when it was uh, kind of wider than it is tall, it didn't make as much sense for the circle, so I changed that up a little bit. You can do whatever you want when you choose an obstacle. Remember, go into animation and add a new animation, and you can choose whatever you want your obstacle to be. It can be anything. I chose a cloud because it seemed like my flyer was flying through the sky. It doesn't matter what you choose, it's entirely up to you. Okay. The other thing I needed to do was to say collide. If I say character collide obstacle, well, this will now make it so my flyer can't ever fly through the obstacle, in my case, a cloud. The other one on one of the lessons is that you've got to make sure that your coin doesn't appear behind your obstacle, in my case, a cloud. If I don't have this obstacle displaced coin, they can hide the coin sometimes, and then you would never be able to find it and score points because you can't see it. Okay, so at this point, I've used all of the things from this lesson except for bouncing because to me, bouncing didn't make a whole lot of sense for what we were doing here. Okay, I've got my exact same lesson where I have created a character, I've created now a collider that's a circle, and I have debug true on still so I can see. I created a coin, set the animation to coin, and made it a circle. I created a score so I can have my scoreboard, and now I've created an obstacle. I made the scale zero point 0.4 because it was feeling too big, but you can do whatever makes sense for your game. In my draw loop, I've got the background blue. I've got this velocity y always increasing, and that's simulating gravity. I've got my character colliding with the obstacle so that the character can't go through the cloud. I've got the obstacle displacing the coin so that the coin will never appear behind the obstacle so that my character can't get it. I've still got my movement. Every time I hit up, it makes the character jump up a little bit. When I hit right, it slowly moves to the right, increasing every time. And when I go to the left, it slowly moves to the left every time. And this, it's a little bit tricky with these left and rights. There's some ways that you could change this to make it better. Okay. The last one is I still have if characters touching coin, it makes the coin randomly teleport throughout the screen, and it increases my score by 1. And I've drawn sprites. The last thing I did was that I've got this text size and a scoreboard, and I set the score equal to score. Now, what's interesting, you might notice, whenever it's in quotation marks, that'll make it show up exactly how it looks down here on the screen. So quotation mark score, colon, it'll be up there. If I type just the score in all lowercase and no quotation marks, because I set this variable of score, it will change the number whenever I actually score points. So if I reset my game and I've got my little flyer here, and it's, there are ways of making this feel much more like a regular game. I have every time I touch a coin now, my score increases. And I can't get through the cloud. And if you notice, that coin's right next to the cloud. What would have actually happened if I hadn't had that displaced code in there is that it would have probably appeared behind the cloud and my flyer would have never been able to get it, and the game would have then been glitched and I couldn't have completed it. At this point, at the end of this, I've done the most basic code, but if you look at the instructions for part 16, it says, hey, you got to come up with some new things. One thing that you could do is create invisible sprites at the edges of the board so that my flyer won't disappear. Add platforms to jump around on and do things. Add obstacles, create ideas. You want to come up with things of your own to make it interesting. But using the things that I have and the things that you can do, you can make a pretty cool game just with these collision rules and gravity lessons. So come up with something cool. Surprise me. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with, and I hope to see some good things.